Hi everyone, it's Bryan Waters here from the QTube. I'm delighted to introduce our masterclass for this month, which is with composer Dominic Sewell. It's to accompany the release of our latest clip into the library.
Some recipes aren't written down, they're handed down. A pinch of this.
It's got a lovely vibe to
Handful
it,
of
and of
that.
course this is a great area of opportunity
grind
for
folds the
composers. There's work of this type out there, and this is a great opportunity for you to A, practice, B, listen to how other composers approach this type of work, and C, of course, get this into your portfolio, which will give you, hopefully, an increased chance to get that type of work in the future. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hear from Dominic. Hi Dominic, nice to see you.
And you too.
Thanks for joining us. I'm really excited to see what you're going to share with us today. It's something very different from anything we've done before. But before we get into the meat and potatoes of it, do you want to just give us a quick background, a quick bio, as it were?
I'll attempt to. Yes. So sorry about the light changing behind me, but it can't really be helped. Yeah, my name's Dominic Sewell. I'm a composer and orchestrator. And I work mainly in the realm of commercials, TV commercials, that sort of thing. And at the moment, library music, although I've just finished my first feature film in January 2025.
Fantastic.
And various short films and things like that as well. So it's been quite a busy year, and I'm literally in the middle of doing various albums, Countryside Classical Volume 3, and then an album of my own material, which is basically sort of cinematic orchestral stuff, which is kind of what I do.
Yeah.
And then as a sideline, although it's not much of a sideline because it takes an enormous amount of time, I have a YouTube channel called Dominic Sewell Music, where I analyse John Williams's music for the Star Wars franchise, mainly. I mean, I do other things as well.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, we'll put a link to the channel in the video description, and definitely would encourage people to go and take a look at that. So today we're going to do a little bit of a chat, which is hopefully going to be relevant and of interest to our community, and also ties in nicely with the clip and challenge that we've prepared for December, which is a Christmas ad for a supermarket chain. And there are great opportunities for composers within that space, right, Dominic? I mean, that's something that you've...
Yes, I think so. I mean, in a sense, it's kind of how I first started, really. I mean, I think we all sort of try and start doing short student films and things like that. And there's always a thing, isn't there, when you do a student film, who owns the music, and the film school always want to write your entire rights away to something. But to be honest, it doesn't really make much difference unless it's an Oscar-winning short, in which case, make sure you don't sign all your rights away. But I don't know why film schools do that. It's sort of super annoying. But anyway, after that, then that got to the notice of some people who said, thank you for scoring my short. I can't really offer you literal money, but I can offer you a job. So, and actually that's better to offer me a job. So I ended up doing various sort of TV commercials. I think originally they were just sort of internet things quite cheaply. And then eventually I sort of, upgraded to telly.
Yeah, great.
So I've been doing a bit of that. And then on the basis of that, then you do more short films, then eventually you might do a feature film, and then might do some more TV work. And I've done, a BBC documentary, Natural World programme with a few colleagues, all sorts of different things. So, yeah, I mean, the biggest job commercially was the Cineworld ident, which I did. So it's, when they flog their unlimited card. So they wanted a John Williams sound-alike, which is probably just as well because I've been studying his music for years.
Right.
But they also wanted, because of the way the advert was shot, it started off with space. So it started off with a sort of E.T. type thing. Then it suddenly went into a musical like La La Land, which was the sort of the big film at the time.
Yeah.
So I had to imagine, okay, what would John Williams do for La La Land? But then obviously I can't be John Williams either because, well, I can't. But I can attempt to. And then there was a sort of Jurassic Park type thing and then a sort of Marvel thing as well. So, trying to fit in 4 or 5 different styles of music within 45 seconds is quite a challenge. So with this challenge, which composers have, I think it's probably better to just stick to one style, and just, make sure you have a sort of sense of structure to it, so that all, with the commercials I do, even with something like that, there's a sort of central, let's call it a sort of motif or a nugget of thematic material, if it uses that sort of theme, and you kind of go from there. Is there a way that you can sort of develop it or have an uplift? A lot of adverts have a particular type of structure, whereas this, which is usually so-and-so can't do this. Oh no, but with blah, you can do this. Hooray! And, that then defines the musical structure, because of course the uplift will be, it sort of goes up, and some...
Triumphant.
Yes, exactly. And what a lot of sort of clients say is, we need more energy there, which usually just means, semi-quavers, and claps, and a shaker. And that's about some sort of, nice goose guitars.
So is it generally quite formulaic, really, for ads?
It can be. It kind of depends whether they've temped it that way as well. So, often you'll get a temp track which they've kind of discovered. And there are two problems with that. First of all is that then the client now wants the temp track, but it's going to cost them £40,000 to use. Or they want you to sound like it, but you need to avoid copyright infringement. But because they've already approached the person who owns it, they're going to be watching out for an ad that sounds a bit like it. So you have to be very, very careful indeed.
Yeah.
With the slightly higher end commercial places, they will have a musicologist or a lawyer that can kind of advise. But my advice is just to stay well clear of it. Don't even bother, because what usually happens is that somehow they find the money to buy the track, and so then you're out of a job anyway. So you're not really losing anything by just going, let's do something different. Slightly.
Have a bit of confidence in yourself as well, to be able to actually convince the client that this is going to work, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think a little bit. I mean, that's very difficult when you're just starting out, because of course you need to people please. That is what you're doing. And ultimately you need to people please anyway, or in fact client please, let's say. Because there's no point in doing anything else, you need the work. So,
it sounds like a tricky line. It sounds like a tricky line to tread, really, between, sounding too close to the beloved temp and steering clear of it enough to be not in hot water, kind of thing.
Well, notes are the least of your problems, really. The diplomatics, or the diplomacy aspect of dealing with the clients is far more important, really. Good lines of communication, being able to be, contacted properly. Delivering when you say you're going to deliver, assigning a budget which is kind of what you think you are worth. And that's really hard, because of course, budgets vary massively depending on who the client is. But you have to sort of just, I don't know, I think you gradually get a bit of a feel for it, I think, when you've kind of done a few. When you first start out, it's going to be next to nothing, a few £100 maybe. If they're just sort of internet things, because you're not going to earn any money from just doing internet stuff at all in terms of royalty. But as soon as it starts getting put on TV, whether it's terrestrial or digital, then that's sort of more serious royalty. And you also need to be au fait with a PRS and make sure that your tracks are registered properly, that they're assigned a consignment number, for example, which lots of composers have no idea how to go about doing. But very, very easily, you just go to Clearcast, which is the advertising people that all adverts have to run through, and they will have the consignment number, because often the production company won't know it either. So you can sort of ask the producer and director, they're not going to know. So the last resort is just go Clearcast, this is the advertising agency, this is the production house, this is what the ad was, it's 45 seconds, can you give me a code? And as soon as you got that code, you bung it in to your PRS registration, and fingers crossed and everything else, it works.
As you say, there's a lot to navigate beyond just the notes.
Oh yeah, I mean, so that comes with experience, because of course you need to concentrate on the actual notes first, obviously. But there's all this other stuff that goes around it, which you need to be aware of. And certainly issues of just sort of, just making sure it's mixed properly and sounds good. And it's clear on a lot of variety of different things, headphones, speakers, posh headphones, or just, AirPod type things.
On the telly.
Absolutely, yes. So I'm very blurry all of a sudden. I don't know why.
You are. You keep blurring out.
I don't know why. It's really annoying. So sorry.
Yeah, don't worry. It's just the nature of these cameras, isn't it? It's kind of hunting for the image with a blurred background and the bright light behind.
Yeah. And that's the problem, is that there's a lot of light sort of changing in my room.
Well, you will live in a tropical sunny clime.
No, well, I mean, that's true. Although I did actually have to do a demo for a games person who was doing a commercial in September, and they asked for a demo the day before I went on holiday.
Right.
So I had to take all my gear with me on holiday and do a demo sitting in a a very hot, humid apartment.
Just doing it on your headphones.
Yeah. And with no keyboard.
Right.
So that's the time to call out acoustic strummer 2, contact instruments, and make sure that you've got the best quality thing that you possibly have, and you can kind of just program it.
Wow.
It's a bit sort of, it's not ideal, but
no, sounds
better than not doing a demo. I think it's probably good to sort of talk about how I'd approach doing a commercial.
Okay.
So what I'll do is I'm going to share my screen and see whether this actually works. So this was a job I did in 2022, and it was for Wayfair. And one of my sort of great directing friends asked me to pitch for it, which I did. I think actually this was the second commercial we did, so it's very unusual, I have to say, for a performer to for a composer to end up doing more than one advert. Often they just want to change and just want somebody else, because of course that's what happens. So actually get repeat business out of somebody is extraordinary, really.
Right, I was going to ask you about that. I mean, so it's not really a reliable line to get into in terms of repeat business. It's a bit sporadic in that.
In terms of the actual clients themselves, not really.
Okay.
But I started doing lots of food commercials, so every commercial I got was a food commercial rather than something else. But I don't know whether that's because a lot of commercials are food commercials or not.
Probably.
And it's probably just coincidence. But yes, generally speaking, you'll get approached by somebody and they'll go, "Oh, can you do us a bit of a favor by, doing this commercial at this reduced cost, and we promise you more work." You can promise? No, it's never going to happen. So then you just have to weigh up the pros and cons of turning it down.
Yeah.
Which is usually not worth turning down. The practicalities of this is that you watch the entire film all the way through. Hopefully you've got a meeting with the director and they can tell you the concept of what they want. I can't remember what the temp was for this, but it was sort of light jazz.
Okay.
Sort of light music, basically. And I thought it was a bit sort of Quincy Jones-esque. But then it's an English advert, and if you bung very American-sounding music on an English commercial, it just sounds really out of place and a bit strange. So I thought there's no point doing that. In the end, I just sort of went with this.
So this was an ad for UK TV, right?
Yeah, and ironically, German TV as well.
German TV, okay. And just for those that don't know, because we do have quite an international audience, Wayfair are a network.
They're a sort of reseller, basically, of various things, sort of like
furniture mostly. Yeah,
mostly furniture, but other sorts of things as well.
Yeah.
So this ad is essentially a 30-second one. I think that was the one I started with, and they wanted a slightly longer 45-second one and a 15-second, and they're called bumpers. So generally, when you're signing, when they want you to do an advert, it's not just one. You've also got to consider that you've got to do, basically consider if you're going to do a 12-bar blues, that's not going to be that's not going to fit into 5 bars.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't write a 5-bar blues. Well, you can write a 5-bar blues actually, but just, you need to be very, very careful about what you can add, what you can't add. And so naturally, the nature of what you write is quite modular. You can extend it, you can contract it.
Yeah.
And so you need a piece of music that's going to be capable of being expanded or contracted. It's the same really with library music, actually, because that's the same thing. It's a 59-second version or a 29-second version.
Yeah.
So you'll notice that, for example, I put a 2/4 bar there.
Mm-hmm.
And I tend to try to keep the BPM exactly the same all the way through. I don't want to kind of really change it.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on how I do this, I mean, sometimes you can put it on... so I'm working in Logic. You can adapt the project tempo, which means that things are much more fluid because it just follows what you play. And if you're playing everything in literally on a keyboard or something, then it will follow it, and then it will put all of those tempo markings in it, which is quite useful. And then I put little markers in, which you would normally do in terms of where the tune starts. There's something else happening here, a nervous smile. So
the kind of hit point, really. Yeah. Exactly.
And then this 2/5 bus literally just to fit with. Do you see here? There's a change of edit on that. It's a close up of the little dog.
Yeah.
And so I've put in little bits of a sort of nod to something. You don't want to be too sort of Mickey Mouse about it, but it's quite important to. Well, for the director, it was quite important to acknowledge certain things on screen.
Yeah.
Some
Just
directors
like
hate
a payoff.
that. Yes. So I'll play it for you all the way through, and then you can go and do it. This is without voiceovers and sound effects. It's just literally music.
Good.
There we go.
My foot is tapping.
Yeah. So I try and sort of create something which is catchy, but not too annoyingly catchy, if you see what I mean. So this particular one, I managed to. You can see here I've done sort of demos of, alto sax and trumpets and things like that. Which ultimately didn't get used because I managed to, we had enough money to actually afford to get it outsourced to real people. So,
brilliant.
And it makes a huge amount of difference. So, with all of this, I've sort of mixed little muted things with an unmuted line as well.
So, forgive my ignorance, but perhaps my ignorance is shared by the audience. So decisions like that about using real players versus not, are those decisions that you would make based on the budget you've been given, or would you try and sell the idea to the client and say, look, put some money into this, it'll be worth it kind of thing?
Both often. Is a mixture of both. So with this one, I convinced the client to add a bit more to the budget to go, if you do this, then it will sound even better, which they said great. And weirdly, you'll see that we actually mix the MIDI with the real anyway. So you actually have the best of both worlds. So you've got these sort of harmony things that I think like that, and then when it's mixed in with everything else, it sounds much more full and
it does.
It works. And then obviously as I'm going through, I'm kind of EQing everything and making sure it's sort of nicely balanced and panned and everything else. This is the energy. Remember I was saying that before about adding a shaker to things. We need more energy. There we go. So it's all that going on.
There's the energy.
There's the energy.
Those are the energy tracks.
Yeah. So and I mean, some of the samples are not massively expensive ones. I think, I even use sort of east-west and flute things, stuff like that. So,
it's about how you combine them and how you mix and master them, I suppose.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. And there's a little bit missing because I don't have one of the drives with me at the moment, which is sort of, not all the way there. So, but basically that's kind of it.
And would you literally be responsible for the whole production? So what you deliver is what's going to get used. There's no further mastering or anything after you've finished your work.
Unless I'm trying to remember whether I took this to a mastering engineer or not. I think I did actually. I did get it professionally mastered. So I did the mix myself, and then I got a friend of mine to master it all, which basically just means that it's suitable for telly, cinema, video, whatever. Even if they haven't booked it in their original, we want to use this on TV for a year. It's important to kind of know that it can be played anywhere, and you're not going to have a sort of weird bloom in the low mid range, or it's not going to sound too tinny or whatever. So that's important to do. So I made absolutely sure that it could be used in any media, basically.
Okay, great.
So hopefully that sort of I think the only technical thing I didn't say was this SMPTE offset thing, which is here, where it's quite useful to sort of be able to just make sure the exact length of time. So bar 2 I've now said that's the time code of bar 2, which is 0. And you leave a little bit of silence before and after the first downbeat comes in, which is a sort of requirement of most TV stations these days. And as you see, it's unmastered because I sent it to a mastering engineer, so I took off just a sort of quick ozone 8. I think this wasn't necessarily the final version that got sent, but at least it's a version which I was able to show you. So there we go.
Excellent.
It says here Quincy Jones. So you'd use Quincy Jones. Well, that's great, isn't it? And now we're going to have to see the.
Janet used Wayfair to find the perfect.
Is that the temp?
Yes.
Yes, it's a flamingo. And no, she can't stop staring at it.
Yeah, so it's slightly. Do you see what I mean? It's a British version of what Quincy Jones.
Yeah.
It's not quite the same thing. It's not enough to get myself into copyright infringement. Although, having just played that bit, I hope this doesn't get taken down.
We'll be fine.
I'll stop sharing.
This is under fair use, so we'll be fine.
Yes, I would have thought so.
So
I mean that hopefully a small snippet of sort of the way you practically go about things. And of course, it's really important to just play. Have a play, just improvise. And if you can't improvise, sing it. What do you want the audience to hear? What do you think you want the director to hear? And of course, here I've not copied the temp, but I've kind of used it as inspiration to kind of create my own version of what I think might work. So it's sort of it's got a comic element to it. And of course, it's very difficult to try and be funny. But hopefully the sort of musicality of something is sort of, you can make it comedic, or not, as the case may be.
Yeah. It does sound like something from a sort of, 19th, the music sounds, it does sound like something from a sort of Cary Grant,
Well, I was going for Terry and June. The sort of BBC or
there's a reference that none of the audience will
at
least you and I understand.
Look up Terry and June, it's great. That sort of late 70s, mid 80s type sort of slightly I'm not quite sure, cheesy basically. But there's an element of cheese.
Do you know what's interesting for me here, which strikes me, is that typically within the library our clips are films, so they're much more about drama or horror, or there's also documentaries. We haven't really touched much on this type of work, and within film, we did this thing recently with this clip which we call Bullion. I'm not sure whether you've seen it, but it was strongly inspired by Bullet, the Steve McQueen film. And there was a whole raft of films around that time that were very jazz-based scores, which you don't get very much, if at all, these days in films. But within the advertising world, you could very much be asked to do something of that vibe, as say Terry and June,
And I'm not a jazzer at all. I never studied jazz. I mean, I've been to hear jazz, but I've got no formal training in jazz whatsoever at all. Literally none, but I can follow a score, and I can sort of you learn from copying.
Yeah.
Initially, I mean, obviously not for a specific job, but you know, when you're studying or when you're sort of woodshedding, you're picking things up. I think the important thing is just not to be afraid of it, and not to think that you're not any good. I mean, I remember doing some string arrangements for an arrangement of Both Sides Now, and you know, I mean, that's quite a daunting prospect to do. And I haven't, you know, again, I haven't studied jazz at all. And then a jazz professor from the States phoned me up and went, "I really love your string arrangement. Can you send it to me?" Yeah, sure, no problem. Here you go. So you just never know. I think that the important thing is to just, if you like it, then probably other people will like it.
Yeah.
But if you've gone, oh, there's a bit, something that's not quite right there, then other people will probably feel the same thing. It's the same with any composition, is that you have to be in control of and aware of all the ideas that you have. And that if anybody asks you a question, why is that note there? You don't say, I don't know.
I mean, yeah. And I mean, you know, this is one of the things that I often talk about with our library, is that it's a safe place to play around with ideas and become familiar with maybe broadening your palette, you know, for example.
Absolutely.
So you've never done jazz, but there's a great piece there that you could practice broadening your palette a little bit and doing a bit of jazz.
Absolutely. And there's so many sort of, you know, textbooks and workbooks and things like that. And if you ever get sort of asked, well, you know, it's not necessarily the best way to learn, is it? Then you can cite John Williams himself, because that is exactly how he learned. He didn't have any formal training at all. He literally learnt from studying books when he was, you know, 12, 13, had studied most orchestration books by the time he was 18, had written for his wind band at school, played the trombone, played virtually every instrument, which is how he sort of knows how they all work.
Yeah.
He just put the work in. You know?
Yeah.
So
am I right in thinking there's a rumor that him and Spielberg are doing another movie together?
I believe so, yes.
That's exciting,
I believe
isn't it?
so, which is incredibly exciting. I thought that was it, you know, after The Fabelmans.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of it. And Dial of Destiny as well was one of the last sort of big ones that he did.
It's so exciting. And there's been no indication of what sort of genre of film or anything it's going to be, no?
No idea. I just don't know.
Right.
I mean, his body of work is extraordinary.
It really is.
And I think people, I mean, this is part of the reason why I did the YouTube channel, actually, was because I wanted to kind of get to grips with how do you write like that? What's going on?
Yeah.
Where do these notes come from? And I've, you know, analysed a lot of his music. But it does mean that I'm very now sort of funneled into a sort of specific composer. I haven't really listened to many other people because I haven't had the chance to do it. It's like being a sort of PhD in something, is that you get very funneled into a very, very specific, narrow thing. And so if somebody says, well, what about Hans Zimmer's score for Dune? I mean, I don't know, because I haven't really heard much of it. I mean, I've seen it.
Do you think you will? Do you think you'll do other composers on your channel?
Oh, yeah, I will. Yeah,
so
I do occasionally.
Going back to the clip, which you've seen and you've kindly given us a bit of guidance on putting it together. So what would you say in terms of like a kind of brief or anything that springs to mind, or how people could start approaching it? You know, what comes to your mind if it landed on your desk as an ad to do?
Well, the first thing is to find a sound world. That's the first stage of anything. And to find a sound world, you need to play. So you're going through all your sort of sample libraries and things, or you're just literally thinking in your head, what would work? What's going to work? Is it going to be a sort of guitar-led thing? Is it going to be a contemporary song, for example, which you could write? That would work perfectly well, actually.
Yeah.
But also, is it going to be sort of warm strings and tinkly glockenspiel and harps and everything else? Or is it just going to be a very simple piano thing that then grows into something else and sort of gets warmer and warmer and warmer and more cuddly as the music goes on? It could be any manner of those things, but the important thing is to play around before you begin, and then you start funneling your ideas into one genre and don't try and fit in too much into that genre as well. It could even be a jazz thing as well, sort of light, breezy jazz, waltz, for example.
So there's quite scope here. There's quite a broad scope here.
There's a broad scope, yeah. And I think you need to play to your strengths as well. Perhaps if you're doing just one version, play to your strengths. If you want to submit two, I don't know whether that's allowed under the competition, but why not do two contrasting things? Or, do two contrasting things, then choose the one that you prefer.
Yeah.
Play it to your friends as well. Always getting a second opinion. When I was doing this demo, there's a little 2-year-old boy. So I played it to him and he loved it. So I thought, well, that's good because the games thing is kind of appealing to children. So, if you can get a fan instantly, then that's always quite fun.
Well, again, I'm hoping that that's one of the nice things about this kind of community that we're trying to cultivate, that they can get opinions off each other as well to some extent and reactions off each other.
Yes, and this brings us back to a point that I think we had discussed before, which is that, composers aren't necessarily the best people to say whether something's good, because ultimately I'm not the one who decides whether that music got done. That's the producer, the director, and the client, and above all, the client. If they like it, you've done a good job. And ultimately, they're the ones who make the decision about whatever it is you do. However, even before it gets to that stage, I think you kind of know what would work and what wouldn't. But I was just watching an interesting Charles Cornell YouTube thing about Radiohead's rejected song for the James Bond franchise.
Yeah.
And it's an amazing song. Absolutely astonishing.
Yeah.
It's so good. And I can't fathom why a bunch of people decided that wasn't going to work.
Yeah, there must be other reasons beyond just the sort of taste, if you like. There must be something more complicated about.
Almost certainly, which we don't know about. Yeah. Probably. But it is always intriguing how people's taste varies widely. Another Wayfair commercial that I did started off as a demo by them wanting 1970s punk. So it's like real thrashy, all of this sort of stuff. And they went, yeah, we loved what you did. It's just that the clients now changed their mind and now wants Thad Jones contemporary 1960s jazz with like 13th chords in everything, really complicated, So, so from that to contemporary Thad Jones 1960s jazz with wide spacing, big band stuff. And I don't know whether I can write for big band, but again, you do your research. A friend of mine, actually a former student, really, did a wonderful blog about big band arranging. And sorry, our cleaner's next door, so that's the sound of what. He did this
band.
He did this fantastic blog about big band arranging, and it's superb, absolutely superb. Evan Rogers is his name.
Right.
If you just type his name into Google, you'll find it, and it's
the Charles Cornell channel that you mentioned is really interesting.
Just superb. Yeah, he sometimes sort of goes off on a tangent a little bit, but that's just his style, and it's very sort of very well produced, isn't it?
Yeah. His enthusiasm, and also just a range of really interesting topics that he goes into. It's great.
Absolutely, and you could say the same for Rick Beato as well. All these sort of wonderful YouTube educators are really important, actually, and they've sort of brought a whole community together. I when I started my own YouTube thing. And I have a Patreon page where people sort of ask me questions and things. It's a really interesting who loves John Williams. He is a bit of a sort of Marmite character. Lots of people don't like him, particularly in the sort of worlds of classical musicology.
Right.
I'm thinking of one particular person, which I won't name. But it's just like, the sort of ineptitude of somebody to not engage with the sheer... genius of his music is incredible.
Yes. I think the danger of it is that it's so attractive, for aspiring composers. It's so seductive, and it's probably one of the things that brought them in. Think how many people he must have inspired to pick up instruments. But
me for one.
Yeah, but like when we run our score relief competitions, which are often sort of fast-paced animations, or at least animations with some fast-paced segment in there, and you can see everybody reaching for their John Williams tropes, you know, and it's I think it's something almost, you know, you can see why people do it, and it sounds great in and of itself, but I think that you've got to keep searching for your own voice as well, I think.
You do. I mean, and that voice will be whatever you end up doing. I mean, it's interesting because I mean I've just been given a book to review actually about scoring, and it's full of these sorts of, this is how to do drama, this is how to do scary, and you sort of think, well, there's lots of different ways of doing scary, and the trouble is that you're kind of, it's where people want the ultimate orchestration book. There is no ultimate orchestration book.
Almost
There's
like
instrumentation.
a book.
Say again.
Almost like a cookery book.
Yeah. It's just there isn't one. I mean, there's sort of, you know, the classics. You know, everybody reaches for Samuel Adler, but not many people know about the Cambridge Guide to Orchestration by Sevsey, who developed a huge orchestration program in Vienna, which you would do for 3 years, just doing that. But really, the best orchestration is just copy out scores. There we go. That's your orchestration book. That's literally it.
Yeah. So you're obviously, something that's come out in the conversation to me is that you really value the ability to read scores, to study scores, to be able to dissect them, take them apart, and then sort of take that into your own work. Because I know that there's obviously going to be a whole slew of composers out there who are not classically trained, and perhaps a score is a bit daunting. But you think it's definitely worth pursuing.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, you know, I started teaching a colleague 2 years ago, and he couldn't read much music, and he learnt a lot of piano by ear, had never done grade 5 theory, you know, any of the sort of classic things. And really, you know, as long as you can find yourself a decent teacher and the money to pay for one, you know, and 2 years later, he's now writing orchestral music in the style of Ravel. You learned, you know.
So it's just a question of committing yourself to it, really, for a period of time, and it'll just become part of your language then, really.
Yes.
Part of your toolkit.
Yes, and there are so many sort of resources out there to help. I think a lot of it is that it feels probably overwhelming to begin with, and you're not quite sure where to begin. And I think that can kind of put you off a little bit. But
I think it is a bit like learning a foreign language, isn't it? I think it's really daunting when you
start. But, you know, to be honest, if you can count to 12 and you can say the alphabet backwards from G back to A, you can do any music theory. Because literally that's all it is.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything else that you need in order to do it.
Actually, funnily enough, the Q-Tube was kind of born from that because, you know, as you can probably guess, I played the guitar, but not trained at all. And when the pandemic came along and I had lots of time on my hands, I started committing myself to learning a bit of music theory, you know, from YouTube. And then, you know, I've told this story a few times, but eventually that led to me diverting from that and launching the Q-Tube. And yeah, you know, like it didn't take very long before I felt that I was really starting to make progress, which unfortunately then got sidelined. But yeah, it was, once you actually commit yourself and kind of like, you know, roll your sleeves up and get stuck in, it's not that horrific.
Well, there are little shortcuts and cheats which can really help. So if we, and you know, my mother was a theory teacher, so there was no excuse for me. I mean, you know, I was born to it, literally. But I've taught lots of people in the past. I used to be a teacher, so I taught lots of people in the past who couldn't read music or started with nothing and no harmony experience whatsoever. And I'm a bit of a traditionalist in the sense that I believe that it is a belief that, you know, it's really good to do 4-part harmony in the style of Bach, 2-part counterpoint, 3-part counterpoint, but also jazz as well. That's hugely important. And if you can't read music, go to jazz. Do that. That will improve your life tremendously, even if you don't particularly like the music, because you know, the amount of advanced harmony work and syncopation, rhythm, you know, all of that it's extraordinary in that sort of genre. And lots of people who play jazz couldn't necessarily read music, but they could read a chart and they could read chord symbols. And they could follow a tune by copying it, because it's music of an oral tradition, ultimately, like folk music. Doesn't mean it's any better or worse. But if you want to study orchestral music, you will have to do theory. There's simply no question about it, because that's the language of it. And it doesn't need to be daunting or anything. It can be quite fun. But as I say, you do need to put the work in. You need to put the legwork in, like anything.
Yeah.
If you want to lose weight, then don't eat so much and exercise more.
What are you saying, Dominic? You could have saved that until after the broadcast.
Well, no, we're hikers. We're fine.
So, I mean, you've been very generous. Thank you for your time. So I'll bring it to a close for now. But you very kindly offered to help us with giving the feedback for the submissions on the Christmas ad, which I really appreciate. And I'm really excited to see what people do with it. I'm hoping they'll feel very festive. Are there any final thoughts that you would give to the people that are looking at this clip and starting, looking to submit?
I would say do it as if this is a professional job. Don't use it necessarily. I mean, it is an experiment, but try to do it as professionally as you possibly can. Get the best sounding things that you can possibly get in terms of music software or recorded music, which is even better. If you just have a simple microphone, a condenser mic, a nice sort of audio interface, that makes so much difference, unbelievable amounts of difference to the quality of what you produce. And also it makes it your own even more than it would have been had it just been samples. So I would say give it your all, have fun with it as well.
Yeah.
And don't necessarily settle with the first idea you come up with. Settle with whatever idea that you come up with that you think is good enough to be the best idea.
Well, one of the thoughts that occurs to me, or question really, is people have a month with this clip, and that's quite a lot, isn't it? I mean, you wouldn't often get that much time, would you, with a commercial piece?
No, I mean the shortest amount of time I've ever had is 4 hours to do a demo. They said, I woke up at 8. They said we need it by 2 or whatever. Off you go. So. Okay, and it was
it like a pitch? Was it preparing a pitch?
Yeah, and it was for Cadbury. So I went downstairs and thought, oh no, and it was a Christmas commercial as well. So I sort of thought, oh god. So I went downstairs to the piano, got away from the computer, just went to the piano because I kind of play a bit of keyboard, but I never. Well, I think I did grade 3 piano once, but I haven't really studied it as such. Yeah. So got some manuscript paper out. Scribbled down, you can't see that, but scribbled down something, went upstairs, quickly sort of saw the ad, quickly sort of put some markers in, thought, okay, it's going to be this length, it's going to be in that, it's going to be 3/4, little waltz type sort of thing, and it's quite sort of, whatever. And then I produced it. It was okay for 4 hours work. And it didn't get used, but then nothing got used. So I didn't feel too bad because they sort of scrapped the whole thing. I think they just ended up using library in the end. But I then repurposed that commercial for Lidl, and then it won an award for best cinematic advertising in the best cinema advert that year. Not the actual music necessarily, but the commercial itself.
Thing.
Yeah, which was when they were sort of offering things for Disney tie-ins like Frozen peas, this sort of thing. Of course, it's brilliant. And it was a Frozen peas commercial, but with, Snow White. But, I just repurposed it and it earned quite a bit of money. So you just.
And it was essentially the sort of bare bones of it were the thing that you did in the 4 hours.
Yeah, in the 4 hours. So obviously I had to go back and kind of re-record a lot of it because it was just not accurate and things weren't quantized properly and it just didn't really have proper ebb and flow. So that's the shortest amount of time. The longest amount of time is probably about 3 weeks because often, and it could be up to a month because often they want time to kind of digest what's going on. The edit still might not be agreed upon. So when you keep getting a new edit, obviously your thing's having to tweak a little bit, which is why I tend not to record in audio to begin with, because what happens when it's going to, you've cut 2 seconds from that bit and, oh no, that's all gone. And then you'd have to re-record everything. So it's fine if I'm recording it because I don't mind doing it because I can play a bit of guitar I can play the violin reasonably well. So I can sort of do that myself. I can sing a bit, but not, again, not particularly well. So the longest time is probably about 3 weeks.
Right.
But that just means that you've got more time to think about it and to tweak. The other thing I suppose I would say, the word of advice, is nothing's ever going to be 100%. There's always going to be something that, you don't quite like.
Yeah.
Always. But that's just a fact of life.
Yeah. I almost wonder whether, given a month with it, whether there's an argument for imposing on yourself a sort of deadline for composition and then making sure you've got enough time within the month for polishing and mixing and production and
yes, absolutely. I mean, you can certainly have a sort of interim thing. This is what you can do to improve it. Absolutely. Why not sort of 3 weeks to compose and then a week to sort of turn it around, something like that.
Yeah. All right, lovely. Well, I'm sure that people will get stuck into this and have a lot of fun with it. Thank you, Dominic. So the deadline for submissions will be January the 1st, and then we'll sift through them and get the feedback out to people during the course of January. So
brilliant. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
All right, brilliant. Thank you, Dominic.
So thanks, Dominic. Hopefully you'll agree that was a brilliant insight into this type of work. Really appreciate Dominic's time and energy and generosity in sharing that with us. And Dominic will actually be doing the reviews of your scores for this Harpwell and Sons clip after the deadline closes at the end of December. So we'll be sharing the feedback with you in early January. So just a reminder that this clip is available in our library now. It's free for members. And then for everybody who scores it, whether they're members or non-members, submitting your score by the 1st of January for that expert feedback is completely free. And alongside the feedback, you'll also be put into the opportunity to win a string quartet recording session or a sample library from Fracture Sounds. So lots of good reasons to download this clip, create the music for it, and submit it through the form on our website. So good luck to everyone that's doing that. Thanks a lot. All the best for now.
This Christmas, leave what's on the table to us and save your time for who's around it. Harpwell and Sons, your recipe for Christmas.